Enlisted is the free-to-play multiplayer first-person shooter released by Gaijin Entertainment in early 2021, and I've recently been playing it through December and January to see if it's still worth playing now. So let's go over the various aspects of the game first with Gunplay. I mean, it is a first-person shooter, so if the shooting isn't good, is it really worth playing at all? And I can say that the gunplay in Enlisted is actually really bad. And the main reason for this is that it doesn't use recoil patterns for its weapons. Instead, it uses bloom or random bullet deviation. So when you are shooting an automatic weapon, even when you single tap fire it, the bullets will just randomly go around your sight or your crosshair. They're not accurate at all, and you would expect any weapon when you're single tap firing it to at least hit where you're aiming at, but it doesn't. So that leads to the automatic weapons just feeling really bad. The single shot weapons like the bolt action rifles are actually really accurate, so that's better. But also the guns feel very weightless, almost like they're toy guns, especially when it comes to the audio with them as well. If you compare shooting pretty much any weapon in Enlisted to Battlefield 5, Hell Let Loose, Postscriptum, those weapons do feel like they have some weight to them, like there's actual kickback you're getting when you're firing them. But in Enlisted, there's nothing. The audio is really weak with the guns, and because of the bloom and lack of actual recoil patterns, you get very bad feedback as well. The first person shooting in Enlisted is just not good. But you can drive tanks in Enlisted, so maybe the tanks are good, maybe the tanks will make up for it. But no, the tank play in Enlisted is probably the worst tank play I've ever seen in a World War II game. But I think part of that is due to balance, because tanks are really devastating. Just the machine gun on the tanks can wipe out soldiers so quickly. So I think they've made the tanks drive extremely sluggishly, make the turrets turn really bad due to balance. If the tanks were quite quick, like in something like Battlefield, then they would just dominate the battlefield, even if there was just like one or two tanks on the map at any one point. So I will kind of let them off for that, for the really bad tank play, because it's kind of a balance thing, I reckon. But still, using the tanks just isn't really that fun. In Enlisted, you actually lead a squad of AI soldiers into battle, so when you die, you can then just spawn as one of your AI squad mates as long as they're still alive. And when I played Enlisted early last year, I reported that the AI for your squad mates was extremely terrible. Like, they would get in the way of where you're aiming a lot, get stuck on pieces of cover, and, well, generally just be really stupid and bad. And it's still the same. They are still really, really bad. And Enlisted, in my opinion, is a great example of why AI should stay away from multiplayer PvP games, because it's terrible. No one wants to play against AI in a PvP shooter. The general movement in Enlisted is pretty strange as well. When it first released, it was a janky mess. Just general movement was a janky mess, and they've ironed out a lot of that jankiness, but it's still there. Just generally moving around, turning left and right, you can feel it's not quite right. And when you're inside a building, sort of strafing around, trying to look through windows, your soldier will just automatically get on top of tables. It doesn't vault onto it, you don't jump onto it, you can just strafe left into a table and then suddenly you're on top of the table. There's loads of little things like that with movement that just makes it feel so bad, and the only way I can really describe how movement feels is that they've basically taken the character model and stuck a camera onto that player model's model somewhere. That's how it feels, and I think that's what they've actually done, because before Enlisted we had Cuisine Royale, which I think has now been renamed to Cursed, which was a spin-off from Enlisted, and I think because that released quite a bit earlier than Enlisted, they've probably taken a bunch of that code and updated Enlisted with it, and it just doesn't work. Also, the scale of all the maps, all the pieces of cover, the buildings, the interiors, it doesn't feel right. It does actually feel like it is meant to be a third-person game, and it's not just scaled right. It doesn't feel right. I can't really put my finger on it, but it just doesn't feel right.
like everywhere just doesn't feel right. And that leads into the graphics, where sometimes the graphics look good, but sometimes they just don't. Again, it feels like if the camera was zoomed out of it, the game would look really nice. But because it's been put into this first-person perspective, it just doesn't feel right. I can't really explain it. Hopefully the video footage that you're seeing is getting that across, but if you was to play it, I mean, it is free to play, you will probably feel what I'm trying to get across, and it's hard to describe. Maybe it's the lighting is too much, maybe that's washing out all the detail. One thing I can say about the graphics and the performance is that it performs extremely well. I mean, the footage you're seeing, I'm playing at 1440p, max settings, everything max, and sometimes I was getting close to 200 FPS. That is amazing, and in new games that come out, you don't get that performance at all, so at least the game has really good performance. A huge negative to the game, though, is its monetization. It is a free-to-play game, so of course there's going to be premium currency, microtransactions and all that rubbish, but Enlisted is the very definition of pay to win. Pretty much every single thing in the game can be purchased using its premium currency. In Enlisted, you have multiple different things that you rank up individually. So you have the campaigns, which are the levels separated off into different areas, such as the Battle of Normandy, Tunisia, Moscow and Berlin, because there's different factions for those battles. So you need to level up those campaigns, which unlocks different squads and weapons just for those campaigns. And in those campaigns you have squads, which are also ranked up. And in those squads you have individual soldiers, and those individual soldiers are also ranked up and equipped separately and have their own perks. And you can purchase upgrades for your campaign, purchase upgrades for your squads, such as more squad members, better weapons, increase the ranks of your soldiers, and like I said, buy extra weapons, buy extra equipment, buy extra vehicles, all with premium currency. The developers should be ashamed of themselves for going this deep into just pay-to-win nonsense. And yeah, I understand they need to get money somehow by doing a free-to-play game, but pay-to-win is not the way to do it. So after all that, is Enlisted actually worth playing? Well, no, it's not worth playing at all. It's just generally not a good first-person shooter. Even taking out the monetization rubbish they've put in, it's just not a good game. If you want to play a more casual World War II shooter, play Battlefield 5, it's a hell of a lot better than this. The gunplay in Battlefield 5 is awesome because unlike every other Battlefield game, it doesn't use bloom and random bullet deviation. It has actual recoil patterns for its guns, so the gunplay feels so damn good in Battlefield 5. If you want to play something a bit more hardcore, Hell Let Loose, which in my opinion is the best World War II shooter you can play today. And if you want to go even more hardcore, going into more of like a simulation territory, Postscriptum. So that's my thoughts on Enlisted. Let me know what you think about the game down in the comments below. If you like the video, give it a like, subscribe for more first-person shooter content, and thank you for watching.